Well, hello. I hope you can see me and hear me. It's probably the case. And I'm super glad to see you all on this workshop and to see on the conference from the brain, 100% dedicated to the AI and all sorts of AI and how you can use it. Hope you will enjoy my workshop today. The flow for the workshop would be I will repeat all the steps documented on my GitHub. You can also clone my GitHub and just run it as you wish. And yeah, I will be explaining some parts of the code. The initial version of the workshop would be in Python, but there will be also links and explanation how to do it in C#, because it really no difference between languages that you write in your code. It's only how you use the SaaS AI services from Microsoft and how can you leverage them during your work assignments. One of the goals of this workshop just show you that it's super easy to leverage them, and you can start any type of project with them, and then later on do the deep dive and maybe use some more customized or tailored to your needs solution. This workshop would be in English, but I just mentioned one sentence here in Ukrainian. Друзі, я дуже радий всіх бачити. Сподіваюся, що все гаразд. У вас повний заряд павербанків та EcoFlow, і все буде Україна. Дякую, що долучилися. So we continue in English, and so you probably see the front slide about the conference and where I'm working. I need just to mention a few words about my company. Because company is super supportive in everything I do, including public speaking, and they are also trying to contribute to the Ukrainian cause. So it's Solidify IB, it's a leading company, doing all sorts of stuff. And even as I'm working there as a cloud architect, and even as a cloud architect, I can do quite a lot of coding, prototyping, and interesting stuff. So they have a budget for R&D and all sorts of interesting things, and they have a great number of customers. And one of the customers actually is Microsoft is asking for a few things here and there, and Solidify also a GitHub partner. So a lot of solutions, a lot of stuff going on the GitHub recently, and yeah. About me, I'm working. Almost entire life in the IT. I'm Microsoft Azure MVP, Microsoft Most Valuable Professional in Azure category. It's just a honorary title for those who working with communities across the world. So it's nothing kind of special. I'm keeping the certification of the Cloud Solution Architect Expert on Azure platform. I'm also helping with Microsoft.NET User Group Odessa. We slightly have a delays with events because of the war, but we will be restarting again. We done the quite good job restarting after pandemics, and I think it will be even much better after the victory. I'm architect and I'm developer, and I'm working also with all sorts of solution and stuff. So I can work with Python, I can work with a Python backend, C# backend, front end, and etc. But .NET platform and Microsoft Azure is it's a major platform for me. And if you have any issues or questions, just contact me on the LinkedIn afterwards. I can share with you some insights and some additional code. But I will also share additional workshop that you can do as a bonus for this one from my GitHub after the workshop. And I'm also supporting my friends. So this is the reason why there is a QR code. But the main thing that you can do is donate to the donor UA, because this non-profit startup supporting Ukrainians for many years. Just a quick, it will be one more slide, and this is it, and we will start with the workshop regarding serverless landscape. So everything is a SaaS now, and now we have not only functions, we also have serverless containers and all sorts of stuff. And leveraging AI, it's never been easier. So now you have a container apps from Azure, which you can just do the container, do your favorite Docker container, put your put there any trained model, deploy it, and you consume it from the HTTP or any sorts of event-driven connections. And everything is serverless now, finally, even for Microsoft. And combination of the serverless services from Microsoft and cognitive services can really let you bring value to your customer or to your startup project as fast as possible. Regarding cognitive services, there are a bunch of them. Essentially, it's 4 groups. It's a vision, speech, service, language, and decision. We will concentrate on the custom vision today because it allows you to bring your own model, customize it, and tailor it for your needs. Train it with the Azure and bring it back and host with your code so you can process any type of data. But you can also check but you can also check Microsoft Learn for quick startups for other services because they're also quite useful. With some limitations, of course, but it's a perfect combo of serverless infrastructure on Azure and cognitive services to jumpstart your project. And then later on, when you will get your first investment or some kind of a profit or be able to demonstrate results, you can switch to some super customized and super tailored thing for your need and make it probably slightly cheaper than cognitive services. But this was the last slide for today. And I will stop sharing now and share my desktop in just a second. So you should see my desktop now. And what we will do is we will open the browser. Actually, there is a repository that contains entire workshop, and I will post it in the chat window, I think, for the convenience. So you can just follow along the workshop or just do it at your own pace, because everything here is self-explanatory, including the infrastructure, including the steps, changes, and etc. So before we begin, you can get a free Azure via this link. You can use your own Azure account. Anything that you want. One obstacle here is that Azure Functions, we will use Azure Functions in this workshop partially, some localhost code and Azure Functions. So functions now compatible with Python up to version 3.9. You can try. It's the next one. The next version will probably be working, but there is no guarantee because the build of our function will be executed on Azure side. But you can still try. So you will need a Python and Python package manager pip for this, and we will also use Visual Studio Code, and we will use Azure CLI along with Azure Functions CLI, because it's like super fluent and super easy to do. And otherwise we would spend many more hours on setting up CI/CD pipelines, doing the publishing profile, and so on and so forth. Yes, you can also deploy your Azure Functions from Visual Studio Code with Azure Functions component. So as we're working with Python, we're not working with the big and fancy Visual Studio. We're working with VS Code, which is more tailored to the TypeScript and Python workloads. But before this, we need to create infrastructure for our solution. At the moment, I have everything deployed here, and I have a working solution behind the scenes, but we would be following along with workshop from the ground up. Main obstacle here is that custom vision service you can of the free tier, you can have only one deployed in your subscription. So if you will be using subscription for the workshop that is already contains some custom vision service or other services from cognitive ones, you need to drop them down. So what I will do, I will just try to delete it. Hopefully Azure and demagods will not block me from this. So delete, and actually I can drop this resource group as well. If you have some kind of, if you don't have access to Azure and it's problematic for you to get it right away, you can ping your email with Microsoft account to this chat, and I will gladly add you temporary as contributor to my subscription. So you can run the code and deploy it and enjoy it online. But as I mentioned, you can also do this at your own pace. It's not a problem because all steps are prepared and everything is completed. So we cleaned everything up, almost clean it, and now it's time for the infrastructure. For brevity and for the workshop, I'm using the Azure CLI via Bash console on the Azure portal. Usually, it's a typical approach. And the way I'm using it, it's just copy pasting from the GitHub and pasting it on the Azure portal. But one important moment that is usually going as an obstacle, it's the parts of the script. I will briefly explain them, so it will not be a full black box for you. And one thing is that you should copy the script and change here the name Microsoft, because I'm using the sponsored subscription now, and it contains name Microsoft. So this way I'm setting the proper subscription to not interrupt with anything else like production one and etc. So if you know name of your subscription, you can put your name instead of Microsoft. It will search the name because it's using contains query, or you can just replace subscription ID with exact ID of your subscription. So this is the first important moment. Then let's do the quick run through. So AZ account set will set ID of your account as a default subscription that you will be working in the Bash console or from CMD. You can run Azure CLI scripts from CMD, no problem here also. Then we use in location not Europe because I like Ireland and I like the stability of this region. Then we're using the postfix to all names, so we will not interrupt each other. So all resources in Azure will be with unique names. We're creating Azure Resource Group. We're creating Azure Cognitive Service. So it's AZ Group create and Cognitive Service account create, and we creating custom vision. Custom vision with SKU F0, which is intended for the training, for the demo purposes, for developer purposes, and etc. It has certain limits because if you will be training the huge data set, you cannot do this on the F0, so you need to deploy a paid instance always. Then it's a section dedicated to the Azure Function application storage. So we creating a storage account, getting the keys and etc. Then creating Azure Function app, and doing some additional command to avoid any DDoS that can happen with your Azure Functions, because we will use anonymous authentication here. And anyone can trigger your endpoint and send a lot of images, so they would be analyzed, and it might end up in a huge bill. So we set in the daily memory quota. So in case of the DOS, nothing bad will happen. And this quota essentially meaning that it will be only 3 gigabytes per second provided by Azure. So no money will be spent at all. Then, as a kind of final step, we showing the output of the secret case of our cognitive service account, so we can use it later on in our code. So if you're using your subscription, you're copying this script entirely, like this. Then changing the name Microsoft to something else, and running these 4 commands. Switching back. I'm switching back to the Azure, where I have a bash. Ctrl-Shift-V, it's a quick way to paste the code here. Now we're hitting enter. So our command AZ account show us the correct subscription. Then we essentially, let's do it the proper way. So I will copy everything. I will paste it in Notepad++. Then this section, this command section already executed. Then I'm leaving only this one, only leftovers. Switching back to the Azure console, like this, and I'm just trying to put code here. And after I inserted it, I'm entering enter. Hope everything was selected here. Hopefully, yeah. So deployment is underway, and while it is deploying, let's have a look at our GitHub repository and check what's going on there. What's going on there as the next step for us. So as the output of this script execution, we will take the secret keys, and we would take also the URL endpoint. So if you deploy it in a different region, so if you have your favorite region and you're using it, it will be just West Europe or something else, or East US. Then we will check the version of the Python and version of the package manager, just to be sure that everything is correctly, that everything is installed before we start working with the Python. The work with Python for you, if you will be following workshop, it will be not coding, it will be just copy pasting and adjusting it. So because if you enjoy coding, you can do this at your own time, at your own pleasure. Today we need to leverage the custom vision endpoint and see what it can do. And if you would have an inspiration and was still in a good mood, you can also use additional tasks that I will provide. So then we will be continuing with creation of files and filling up these files with the data and running all the data to consume it from the GitHub repository. If we would switch back here and open the navigation on the GitHub, you can see that there is a quite widely used data set of Lego figures of Simpsons, but you can use whatever you like, really. So if you have some kind of a set of images with objects or with objects or something that you want to be recognizable by your trained model, you need and you can use it for this workshop because it will be no difference. You just need to provide it in the local folder, and you need to and you just need to train your model with your data set. It's quite easy. So the code really will the code itself would be really the same. Okay, so we have our output. Let's copy it. Let's copy and override this one. So we have two secret keys, secret 1 and secret key 2. Obviously, it will be deleted afterwards by me, so you can try, but it will be offline. And we have our cognitive services endpoint here. So I think it's time to start with the local code in Visual Studio. But if you have any questions, objections or suggestions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand so I can just answer it ASAP and help you, or if you need help, because sometimes help is really needed. And as I promised, we're switching back to the Visual Studio Code. But not just switching, we will use also our README file, so you can follow along the documentation and also see the results and outputs, and it will be easier also for me. As I promised, we doing the copy-paste work to avoid coding. It's Python -v. It's 3.9. I probably don't have a latest pip, but it's good enough. We have a default folder now. And you can create additional folder inside or stay with your current folder. It's just up to you. We have everything is a command now. So we just creating a dataset download file. It's automatically created in this folder. If I will save it, it will appear in the tree. Let me just slightly enhance it. And there is the content of this file. Regarding content, it's just download of the data set for our training from my GitHub repository. There is also other repositories that can contain this sample Simpsons. So we just copy pasting it to download Py. Don't forget to save it, because it's kind of a thing after usage of the big Visual Studio. And then we're just executing this file, and we'll see what demagods will do. Data is downloaded, extracted, and move it to the correct folder. But we need to just double check it. So we have now a data train folder here, and it's the correct place to be. And we have a set of pictures from Lego Simpsons for different personas. Okay, so this step is completed. Then we move in along the predefined path with our GitHub repository. We need to install some packages. They're probably already installed on my machines, but we will just double check that everything is okay. So it seems like requirement is satisfied. Everything is okay, but it will be installed. This command will install a new dependency on your side. Then we're creating a new file, Custom Vision. Custom Vision, and we do initial save. We will populate the contents of this file step by step, so it will be not interactive, but more self-explanatory. For this workshop, you can also use Jupyter notebooks, but I'm doing it from the developer perspective because it's like something like cognitive services and AI services from Microsoft. They are actually complementing developer in many ways. And they are intended for the democratization of AI and helping developers to leverage them easily. Because those people who work professionally with AI services, they probably using more customizable services or something from something more tailored to them from NVIDIA and other vendors. But Microsoft essentially their SaaS services working like charm, and they're really, really good. But let's continue with this file. So the first part would be just a bit of configuration and package import. Okay, everything is okay. Just remove this stuff. Yeah. So we import in some references and libs. Now we need to double check that it's not a computer vision, it's custom vision, because computer vision uses pre-trained and predefined, well-trained and well-defined models from Microsoft, and you can just choose what you want to do. Custom vision allows you to bring your own model to the scene and train it with your data set and bring a new model and download it and use it for your proposals. So we have we double checking that we have a North Europe here. It seems to be correct, and we need an API key. Let's put inside the API key. We also telling that we have training images in folder data train. It can be any folder for you, but just know it, and you will know that you will be able to change it. Okay, moving forward with the code. Then it's code dedicated to selecting the proper domain for training your model. We're using pre-coded, but if you run the Python script just for this part, it will show you the exact domain IDs for different domains. It can be something connected with. It can be general domain, and we're using the general one now. And but it can be something specific like food, like transport, and etc. Okay, it's getting the exact project by ID, so this would be just informational value for you. Then we add in the code that will be working with our images, creating the image list and creating the image list for training purposes. Then we're using additional piece of code for batches, and then for batching of the images, and then we're using code to upload them to Azure. And finally, we have a code that will start the training of your model. That might take some time also. So this approach with models, with pieces of code, we can do execution step by step, or we can execute this as single file and observe the results. Okay, training. Then we need, just let me quickly check. It's yes, everything is okay. I just thought that I have additional file for for working with for assigning the model type, but everything is the same. And yeah, and the last piece would be the export of the model from the Azure, our complete model, our trained model, and zipping it so we can deploy it later on with Azure Function and observe the results. The thing is, probably the initial model training and initial usage of the model would not be that great, and there can be kind of issues with low quality of detection and etc. But this is also good because next time you can add additional images and retrain your model with a better and retrain your model for better results. Okay, let me copy paste the last part. So as I mentioned, everything is about copy pasting. If you're not used to the Python, be aware about spaces and how Python works. So you should you should be just careful, or we can also have a look into the things like you can do this with Azure with C# code and the same dependencies. Okay, so I think we have all the code we need for now. So it's time to run it. Okay, let's wait for the output. Meanwhile, there is no questions for now. There is no questions for now. I can briefly switch to the another version of cognitive services workshop that I have a few years ago. It was a cognitive services with Signal R and real-time translation or voice processing. Actually, this workshop and this tooling was adopted from the Microsoft, but with additional explanations and additional things like how you can do it. There is also prepared code for this. This code is located at the repository of another conference that was 2 years ago. Yeah, so if you will ping me back, you will have a sample how to work with translation with translation services, and how to get results, how to get translation, and how to script it and store it somewhere for the compression purpose. So you can send the transcript somewhere else for storage, or if you just need it to be translated and documented, this workshop was based actually on what geologist guys looking for a few years, and Microsoft actually helped them a lot in this area with their SaaS services. Okay, let's have a look. We have a quite small data set here. Quite small data set, but it still takes time because it's a free tier of Custom Vision. And so it's relatively small computational power. We can actually have a brief look into our Custom Vision service and its configuration while everything is executing for us. Just let me take a sip of water. Okay, so as you can see, there is a there is a portal blade for total overview of cognitive services, and they split it actually in the parts that I mentioned during the presentation. So it's a language, vision, decision, and now we have even Azure OpenAI. Translator is quite powerful and quite good. I highly recommend it. Custom Vision is also cool. everything is cool and everything is super easy to leverage in your projects and daily work, or just for prototyping purposes. But let's look into the our custom vision endpoint and have a look into the pricing tier. So we're using F0 free, and there is an option to upgrade it to the S0 standard. So it's about number of transactions. So it's this is kind of free, and this would be slightly more expensive. But it all depends on the number of transactions, and the number of transactions can really skyrocket with a huge model. So as you can see, there is a limit on the upload of images, so you can do training, the proper training of a big model with F0, but it's something that you can try with S0. And you can click learn more later on to understand your expenses. The same goes with storage of images and etc. You can also, if you have a private networking with your cluster or your data storage, and you're using a huge amount of data for training the model, you can connect it via VNet endpoint, and then it will be protected from the outer world. It's also a good thing. And well, I think this is it. It also have a managed identity. So if you need seamless authentication and access between services, it can be also done quite quickly. But if you will be doing some real work, my recommendation is to use the most expensive tier that you can afford. And let's have also while the it's completed now. Nice. But let's have a look in the resource group that we deployed. It is a Transform AI Workshop 24/24/6. And here we have our custom vision, application insights, storage account, function app, and app service plan. Dynamic for functions means that it's consumption plan. It's fully serverless, and it's the cheapest possible solution to run your model on the Azure or do whatever workloads that you might need to. Okay, so we have everything set here. We have a brief explanation. So really, by yourself, like with copy pasting, if you're not willing to code or just willing to leverage this, you can do this workshop. It's something like 40 minutes, probably because you will be doing something new for you, and because you will be doing just an installations. But the goal, as I mentioned, to kind of express how easy it is to work with cognitive services, and you don't really need any complicated approach like some deployment procedures and etc. So it's easy to start, but and when you will start and get the first results, then you can switch to the MLOps and other cool things that experts like Anton Boyko or Alexander Krakovetsky sharing with you. Because my approach is mostly from developer perspective, because I'm a developer at heart, and I'm mostly like sharing and talking about developer solutions. But sorry for a lot of speech, switching back to what we have. Okay, so we have some artifacts. After our execution, and let's observe it. The final artifact would be an export zip. Let's have a brief look into this file. So as you can see, there is a model ONNX file here with our model, trained model. and additional text information payload with it. It's packed in zip file for our future deployment with Azure Function. What else? We now have an unpacked folder model with our trained model, and there is no changes in data train. No, they should be. Okay, let's create a new file. It's called test dataset download. And add contents here. So contents here provide a hard-coded URL for the zip file with test images that is located on my GitHub repository. It's just downloading them and extracting them to the folder. So nothing fancy here at all. As I mentioned, it's super easy to work with AI and all sorts of stuff. Almost no boilerplate. And everything is super easy to do. Okay, the zip file is downloaded, and now we need to create a new file and install some additional packages so we can run a validation of what we have, and we would have ONNX runtime. There is also a NuGet package for ONNX models, which you can download later on and use it for your C# functions. It's the link located at the end of the README file, and it's kind of the last step or the homework for you if you are coming from C# background as I am. Okay, sorry, not. We can create file afterwards, but let's do it now. Now we install in the ONNX runtime. It's probably installed already, and everything is set. All dependencies are satisfied. NumPy. Okay, and Pillow. You will be having a lot of problems with Pillow. There is a different package that can be used with version 4, but with version 3 of Python, the Pillow is the needed version exists, and the same goes for ONNX runtime, because they bump in the version of the package, but now it's supported maximum of 3.9. Okay, it's time to add a code to our validation model Py. And pass the training images to our ONNX model. I'm not sure. I hope it will be working because demo got an exception, but it should. And obviously, if you will be coding this, it will take more time than just copy pasting it, prepared code from the GitHub. So let's see. Detection rates are not quite high because the quality of the models or the test that we send in there is not quite good, but in the end, after deployment of Azure Functions, we would actually search the Google for the images of Lego figures, and we'll try to see what kind of results and score they can achieve with our trained model. Because if you will have a good photo, then it will be awesome results. So let's switch to the Azure Functions. I'm using Azure Functions CLI. It's actually something that is not really needed in real life, because tooling for Visual Studio Code and Big Visual Studio is quite cool. But Azure Functions CLI, I'm actually using for two purposes. First, if you're working with the prototype and you really need a quite fast deployment without any hassle, or clicking through the UIs of the studios, or if you need to containerize Azure Functions, because Azure Functions can be containerized super easy via Azure CLI. And if you need quick portability or run your functions elsewhere in containers, it is a like preferred approach to do and the preferred way. Okay. Let me quickly double check if there might be questions. I don't see any. Okay. And just maybe not questions, raised hands. No raised hands. Okay, great. Familiar faces everywhere. Okay. So we move in with Azure Functions. So it's initialization of the new function app. We actually naming we name it as Simpson function app. We name it as Simpson function app. We also it will be separate folder. It will be separate folder, so we need to switch there from the command line of the console. Okay, and copy paste it properly like this. Then we install dependencies, pip Azure Functions. It should be satisfied already for me. Yeah, great. Then we add into the functions project new Azure Functions. One important thing, there is we using now Python functions versus 1. But Microsoft are pushing model of version 2. It's now in the preview and will become the main model to work with the next year. So if you will be working with if you want to work or will be working with Python functions, keep an eye on the version 2 because it will be slightly different structure there. Okay. The sip of tea and moving forward. So we creating a new function with authorization level anonymous and HTTP trigger. As you can see, they already pushing it as output of Azure Functions Client that there is a new model in the preview. So now we're creating. Now we're creating a file for the code of our function. It is we're not creating. We opening it. We opening it because I didn't show it to you. I didn't show it to you. But when you created the classify function, we get this init py. The classic approach with Python root object, with Python root entry point, not object. Okay, so yeah, it's a default implementation here of HTTP trigger and default output. But now we need to replace it with our code to work with our ONNX model. So we actually what we're doing here, we're receiving the URL with image, and we resizing it because if you will try, we're resizing it, we always resizing it, because otherwise you will be paying a huge amount of money, and you want to have control over this. Essentially, the size of the image is quite small that we're resizing, and therefore the output of our results would be not that good. But if you will send a low resolution image, like we will test it in a few minutes, it will be much better, and it will be much better results and much better score for your image. Okay, then we load in the model that is deployed alongside the our Azure function, and then we try to do something with it, and we getting the output. We're getting the output of the score and logging the information, hopefully to application insights, but we will see what's going on there, and returning the response. So seems fairly easy. You can what we need to do, we need to copy our model to the function folder. We can also run Azure function locally. Actually, it's not a problem from Microsoft standpoint, but we already did a lot of work, so we just continue with preparation and deploying this to Azure. So we copy in the model folder from the root where we work it with here to the it's not showing for some reason. Yes, it's not showing for the particular reason because I'm not in the correct folder, and actually let me just quickly check. It's well. I miss it in the steps step to change the folder. So we need to do cd classify. So if you're willing to continue with code that the flow that we are using, we would just go inside the folder, because for obvious reason I forgot about this. So now everything should be copied. Let me see. Yeah, now it's copied. And now if you will forgive me, I will just add this command so it will be reusable later on. It's just a quick fix. Train your model, file paths, because otherwise it will be forgotten later on, and anyone and people who will be opening this would struggle a lot. Okay, let's do this like this. Control save, and with a good tradition, commit without any details what's going on there. But as a best practice for as a bad advice for any developer. Okay. Yeah. Probably I didn't run it quite well previous. It was 2 dry runs, but I missed this. Okay, so now we will be working with additional dependencies for our Azure function. So we do creating requirements file. Yeah, here it is. And we add in 3 packages here. Here we have a code to deploy our Azure function, but before this, we need to just double check what kind of name of Azure functions we have. Okay, it was something I deleted before. So we have this host of transform AI function 24246. And yeah, and I just need to copy paste the command for deployment like this, putting it here and changing the name of the application, of the Azure function application. Actually, we haven't opened it previously. It's a because it's empty, but we will have a look after deployment. Now there will be no functions here. Yeah, okay. So we copy in some bugs inside the Azure runtime. Never mind. It should be working. I mean, hopefully it will be working. So we triggered the deployment from the functions client. And yeah, as you can see, there is already warning that Python 3.9.3.13 is different than supported by Azure. But hopefully the demo gods will allow us to work with this, and everything would be nice. Yeah, the thing is, this kind of magical build approach from the Azure client, the build on the Azure side, it's the same ONNX build that was used a long time ago for Azure Web Apps. So essentially, it's the same deployment procedure and building and deployment procedure that Azure Web Apps have for publishing from Azure, from Visual Studio or from developer tooling. So it's for developer purposes, but it's good enough if you're starting with the project and trying to build a prototype without proper setup of CI/CD and etc. So as you can see, it's pulling the different version of Python for build, and it's also running entire pip install of our dependencies. So it's a pillow, it's on ONNX runtime, NumPy, and other objects. So we need wait a little bit. Someone is could you useful image transformation besides okay, it's a good question. I think not at the moment, because everything is changing quite fast. But if you will ping me back, I mean, for Python or with Python or with C#. It's classical Odessa approach to answer the question with the question. Which language? In Python, I don't think so. Maybe I can recommend a few things with the C#, but it's a not common language that is used for AI and computer vision, as you probably know. But I can get back to you like after workshop, or you can and anyone can should connect with me on LinkedIn. I would be happy to kind of get feedback and stay in touch with this audience. And yeah, regarding C#, I can pull some recommendation, but I just need to see the source code after the workshop, because if I open it now, like which version and etc., as this is recorded and would be published on YouTube, it will be kind of not that comfortable for me. But after the workshop, just please ping me back if you're interested. I can provide you variants with C#, but not with Python. Okay, so it's remote build succeeded. Yeah, and it's a function up zip deploy. So yeah, it's the same approach. If you publish in functions from the Visual Studio Code, from the tooling, it will be also a zip deploy. So slightly different, but still useful for our purposes. And if you will return to to our testing of what we have, we probably would get the same bad results, the same bad score for our for our pictures. Okay, it's not. It shouldn't be working actually because we need to get a correct application name here in the URL. So URL is wrong because we generated the new infrastructure here. Let's replace it, and that should be better now. Okay, let's see. Maybe everything went to hell. Syncing triggers, but nothing works, and no one knows why. Why it's not showing the functions? Clear. It's 404. It should be correct one. Okay. Let's try what's going on here. File system. Yeah, but it's somehow it's not succeeded actually, because there is no functions there. And function worker runtime set to Python or the work project set to none. Can determine project language from files. It's quite strange. I should not be deleting the function because it will be debugging in production, the classical one. Let's see. Okay, let's can project type as Azure functions, Azure functions runtime. It's detected. Let's see. Azure functions CLI. Actually, it might be my mistake because I didn't do. It might not have a proper token for this deployment because I didn't do the Azure AZ login. I asked this from you, but didn't do this proper way from the command line and tried to do the Azure Func there, and it's kind of it run the build, but it can be deployed. Okay, and I need the Azure Func CLI reference. Azure Func CLI deploy to see what's going on there. Azure Functions Core tooling, connect to services, command line. Isolated worker process. It's probably for the C#. But let's do this forcefully again, because it shouldn't complain. No, it's worker runtime cannot determine. Okay. let's use this as Python. Is it correct? I don't think so. The functions from client reference. Yeah, it's this one. It's Azure CLI. Okay, it's okay, but let's see what will happen. It's actually interesting. I think it's because I didn't log it in to the Azure, and then I don't have a token. But something like this should happen on each workshop. The core tools, func. Meanwhile, we can also use it like this. Functions. We can install the component into Visual Studio Code. Installing. So there is always a way. The function and folder custom vision flow. It's already see our project, but we will wait until the build end. Hopefully it will work. It should work. Or demo gods. Let us switch back to the function application. And what is one of the components of Azure application? It's actually Azure application insights, usually deployed right alongside. No, it's not. For whatever reason, it's not seeing the function, but let's see the not live transaction search. See all data. Yes, we have some in set post log. Let's see, it's a bug in Azure or it's buggy something with it's classify. Now, which endpoint we used? Teams and functions. Classify. No job functions. Skipping. It's 701. Doesn't seem to. It cannot start the function or else, but let me quickly check. Yeah, okay, application sites retirement. Interesting. But we can always do the backup. Try to do the backup. Let's find our Azure function app. Deploy to function app. Select the folder to deploy. Custom vision flow. This should be the correct one. Yes. It's probably it's maybe something with Python also. It can be anything, but we'll see what will happen now. Meanwhile, to have a proper backup and switch the means for deployment or just avoid any kind of issues. Yes, deploy override. The remote version. Okay, it's something wrong with this one. Why? Project runtime, but project runtime should be only for the C#. It's not should be. But let's try deploy anyway. Yeah, and while we have issues, it's always good to entertain ourselves with some interesting bugs. Some interesting. While we're having these issues, we can actually run. You can actually run your the classification of the model with any URL that with any URL you can find online, and you can run it because you have this validate model py. It's essentially the same code as in the Azure function, and what you can do. It's array that is reading files, but you can actually use images from online, but getting them from URL and using the function code if you're willing to. They had some output here, but didn't quite get it. And you see the strange thing, it's now deployed from the Azure functions to, from Azure via Azure functions via zip package. But let's see if we have it in Azure now. Yeah, we have it in Azure now. Magic. It's not magic, it's just probably bugs in the runtimes that we have, but let's test it. Will it work? Okay, 500, it's much better. It's much better now. It's much better. So let's take an example here. But yeah, we're not taking example, we're taking the parameter and reuse it right here. Yeah, can we use it? No, it's still 500, so it's nice and good. Okay, then we need to see what's going on there. Well, maybe something with runtime version. Yes, we have exception. It's even not AI workshop anymore. It's debugging the AI serverless project. Okay, we have a failure 500 and application and sites cannot provide us any meaningful results. We can also have a look into the transact search for sure. Exception dispatch for system runtime. System runtime display. Okay. So now we have a clean issue with the Python version online in the runtime. Yeah, I shouldn't been deleting the previous version, but okay. Let me think about this. Okay, some comments. Some comments coming my way. Function runtime Python, but it should be. I made it with deployment. But let's. It's a good idea. Let's try to have a look in this. I will made it and redeploy. Also viable scenario. Okay, configuration. Worker runtime. You see, the worker runtime, it's Python. It's kind of what Azure Functions doing, but the version 3, it's kind of we can switch it to version 4 probably. Let's try to do this, and let's try to see what Azure Fun CLI is actually generated. So it's a host. Okay, Visual Studio, I don't really need you, but anyways, just give me a sec. Just give me a second. Let's see what. Okay, we have the Visual Studio code here. So this proposes. Okay, it seems some functions. Let's see what we have in host JSON. Extension bundle free. Extension bundle free version 2. Python development storage. Okay. We can try to switch here to version 3, probably, and try to redeploy. Maybe it might be the case that I have an old version of functions CLI, but the funny thing that I deployed this code yesterday and it was working. But okay, let's try to do this this way with ONNX build and zipping this build up. Actually, model not found errors. Okay, we might need to really downgrade. I don't have a Python 3.8. I don't have it on my machine because I have a Python 3.9.13. But we'll see what will happen now. We can also do the reinstall. It's not a problem per se, but it might be it might be needed to just copy inside the folder, because I will not do the reboot. Some other ideas. Yeah, it might be the also case, but I currently switched it to the runtime version 3 also here. Let's pray the demo gods. Functions in the sync trigger, it should be no functions here. Yeah, it's an empty deploy at all. But let's do the redeploy with the Azure Functions tooling. Actually, I'm not sure. Version of extension bundle, not sure. Actually, what we can do, we can just inside the configuration, we can just probably, but let's deploy it. Let's deploy this, and I will also deploy a new. I will also deploy the remote version 3. Look, okay, cancel. It's this one. I think. Let's save it. Function deploy. No, where is the version 4? It should be the host JSON, but it's not. Actually, let me think. Let me think. I think I put the requirements in. Might be the wrong place. Where I see the requirements? Yeah, here. The Python worker. Okay, it's Azure functions on this one, and notification classify by. Yeah, it's probably misplaced requirements. Misplaced requirements because I switched the folder, but haven't placed them in the correct one. I think. Let me quickly check. Code requirements, files, content packages need to be installed in the Azure functions. Should be inside, but we have it outside. Okay, it's strange. It's strange, but I also have this workshop completed version. Let us quickly check what we have here. So we have requirements. Yes, that is brilliant, actually. Like, I switched the folder, updated the command line, and everything essentially went to hell. But it was a nice struggle. Let's try to deploy from the command line. Maybe it will work. Maybe not, but it's fun. It's always fun with code required. So it wanted inside, but yeah, because I'm with the classify, now level up, I need to switch requirements in the flow. Let's do this like this. I think we don't need anymore. We don't need nothing at all, hopefully. No. Extension, the value of version property. Okay. Okay, it's also a result. Value of version property is missing. Seems logical. I will just copy the host JSON from the clean version. Give me a second. Custom version flow, Simpson functions, host JSON override. Okay, nice and fun. Sometimes when you have offline workshop and you have like 15 people with you, this kind of misconfiguration thing, it's usually the main obstacle, not coding, not deploying, and etc. Just a misconfiguration. We coded everything up, but everything like going to hell with a half audience. And then everyone trying to help each other to detect the obvious errors. Yeah, because we have a root of Azure function application in Python, and we have a particular functions, but they only contain the code, not requirements. But I will fix this ASAP after we finish with like checking what we have. And thanks for helping me. Really appreciate it. Yeah, because the requirements in the folder there was actually without Azure Functions runtime. So it was only ONNX, NumPy, and etc. So there will be nothing to start in Azure. And one of the hints was that he cannot detect the language for some reason. Well, yeah, and now it seems like it's uploading the file. Remote build. I hope the magic will happen now. Yes, the magic happened. Huh? As you can see, the misconfiguration is main enemy of any developer and workshop as a consequence. So we have the main URL and we can check if it's working. Well, okay, it's not quite high score for the Bart Simpson. We can actually see the test runs somewhere here, the local ones, before the struggle with Azure Functions. Yes, so it was, I think, almost the same image, and we have the level of confidence about the same. So what we can do about this, just check what kind of image of Bart we have here. Well, it's a lot of things going on here, and if we will resize it to 200 pixels, it would be not that nice. But we can Google something out or use some external image that I actually use it for testing purposes yesterday. So I will just put it here as a URL, and it will be much higher score because we have. Let us see the minifigure. So it's a quite big Bart Simpson, and it's if we will resize it to something like this with 200 pixels, it will be still quite recognizable by our custom vision. For the sake of experiment, we can search someone like we can search for Homer Simpson, Lego Homer Simpson, and yeah, let's see if we can get a proper URL, proper picture with proper URL. Okay, it's a base 64. Not we can upgrade our function to base 64, but like it's better to find some Homer that is with. Okay, it's JPEG. Let's try it. Let's try it with our function. Not that big confidence, but still better than Homer that we have, because it was 27. So really, the quality of your model depends on your data set, but it's really kind of cool and super easy to do it like in half an hour. You can find some random data set or download it from the cloud and train it and do some fancy things so you can run detection and do it with serverless functions as easy as it can be. The thing is, if you will be trying to do this stuff with high resolution images, it's still doable, no problem here. But I would recommend something more powerful than just function, because you might need more memory. I mean, the Azure functions can scale up to 200 instances. VM instances, and it will be like about 600 or 700 instances of the code for execution. But they have a limit, the default limit of 5 minutes. So it can so if you will put a really huge image, it will take a lot of time to just process it. You can extend this limit to 10 minutes and probably get away with the free tier. But it's like it's highly dependent on the quality of your data set. And regarding the question that I have regarding transformation tooling and things that can be used for these purposes, you can just ping me back on LinkedIn. I will get the names of what we used last summer in one of the projects. It's kind of end of the workshop, but it's not the end of the. It's kind of end of the workshop and end of my demonstration, but it's not the end of what you can do. So, as I mentioned, there is a package with ONNX runtime that you can use for your code, and you can actually use your pre-trained model with it, and use it with Azure Function or just a local code to get a grip on everything you do. Here is the link inside the workshop. And another thing, you can also Microsoft like providing non-developer way, so you can try to use this flow. Build an object detector with a custom vision website. It's kind of scary. No, it's not scary, but it's like not the way I would use for anything, because for me it's easier to do the coding. But if you're willing to just try it, even without the code, you can do it, and you can try to get results out of it. And they have like this portal approach for several other services, including Louis. Sometimes portal working, sometimes not. I must warn you, because I attended a demo like a year ago or something, and the portal have really nasty bugs, but it's still doable, and you still can leverage this. So if you have like any questions, suggestions, and maybe you want some more complicated scenario, you can get back to me, and I will gladly put more complicated scenario inside the my GitHub and code it, and it can be used by everyone else also. If you want to work with some fancy AI solutions or something interesting, you can ping back Devrain, and they actually working with a lot of cool stuff, and you can find you in the next job, next fun opportunity to work with the Devrain, probably, if you're willing to. And the summary, as a developer, Microsoft providing really cool tools that is really really easy to leverage if you don't do the misconfiguration mistake like I did by using different folder for the function deployment. And yeah, I hope you spend a good time. And if you have any questions, please contact me. Otherwise, I'm ready to answer any questions or share some QR codes with my resources, how you can find me. Okay, let me then just share. Let me then just share the QR codes that I have for different purposes, for LinkedIn and LinkedIn for work-related questions, for connecting with me, and staying in touch. Because if I can help you with anything, I will gladly do so. Twitter just for fun, and yeah, the Mono Bank for my friends. It's I understand that now everyone is keeping up their own friends, but just in case, maybe someone later on YouTube will use this link. So I don't see much of the questions. Wow. At least you can do some kind of feedback, like I don't know, raise a hand or do the thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, guys, already leaving. Thank you for the workshop. I hope to see you soon offline after the victory, and so we can raise our glasses for the bright future of IT and victory. Thank you.